But when I talk to people who are the junior or mid-grade level leaders, I think there's kind of, in addition to being aware of what the Army leadership requirement model is, I really want them to do three things consistently well. And the first thing is to develop sincere expertise in their field. I need them to be experts at what they do and be experts at how the Army and about how medicine does things. So let's think about for a moment, like you're a physical therapist somewhere, you're listening to this podcast. How can I develop expertise in my field? The first thing is follow the marks of expertise that your profession uses. Academically, specialty certification, that kind of direction, but also understand not just the physical therapy world, but the wider world of medicine. I think that oftentimes people in health occupations, they really get sort of stovepiped or locked into just their part of medicine, and they lose sight of how what they do fits into the cohesive whole of medicine, right? So how does medicine manage things like safety problems? How does it monitor clinical care quality? How do we address quality and safety problems in medicine? Fortunately, as I move up, I've been in different leadership positions in the hospital where you have to know that the two primary high-vol facility structures in the hospital are the elevators and the HVAC, and you have to know how often they go out and that kind of stuff. So you'll learn a lot of that kind of stuff, but also it's just helpful to have a wider sense of how medicine works. And I think often PTs, they're like anybody else. They don't often know enough about medicine in general to know how what they do fits into that cohesive whole. And that's a big part of expertise in your field, and that's the first one. And the second thing I like to work with people on is a problem-solving focus. And I want people to be very, very interested in solving problems, not in describing problems, not in complaining about problems, but in solving them. And we do need to complain about them, because complaining about them, the emotional response we have to an issue, that tells us what to value. And we cannot make good decisions without our emotional responses, right? So people with damage to their brain in the areas that process emotions can't make decisions, right? And so that's a huge part of putting us in the right direction. And so we need to be upset about something, and we need to be able to describe the problem. But more importantly, we need to be able to fix it with a solution that a lot of people can agree on. And so I really want our junior level and mid-grade leaders to think about, how can I solve this problem? So you're somebody listening to this podcast, you're like, okay, how can I develop this problem-solving focus? The first thing is when you bring an issue or a problem to your supervisor or to peers or other people where you work, do you bring a solution along with that? Do you select a solution along with that? Are you interested in getting to a solution there, or are we just kind of talking about how bad the problem is? And so that problem-solving focus, I think, is really important. And the third thing I want people to focus on is an external orientation, a non-self orientation. So it's like this. I walk into the morning and I walk into a big room. I walked into a big room this morning where I led our hospital's morning reports, a whole bunch of people in that room. I'm sitting at the head of the table today, and I think to myself, what do these people need from me? And how can I give it to them? Not how can I explain why what they want is wrong, not how can I just do what I do and they have to accept me or not, but how can I deliver on their expectations of me? And I'm thinking about how I appear to them. I don't think about it in terms of like trying to preserve my reputation. I think of it in terms of how can I be useful and effective to other people. I think a lot about what I offer other people and what they expect of me. And I ask myself whether or not I'm delivering. So for me, as you move up and you try to develop your leadership, I think these three things are pretty important. Develop expertise in your field, which includes understanding how things work in the wider industry that you're in. Develop a problem-solving focus on solving issues rather than describing them, and have an external orientation. Really think hard about what other people need from you and how other people see you and how you can deliver on what their expectations are. That external orientation, I think about that in the morning when I walked in. I think about it with the admin support specialist at the desk. I think about it with my commander who I work for. I think about it from you, from the person interviewing me. I think, what do you need? How can I give that to you? And so and you and I talked a little bit about those things so I could understand better what your needs were and how I could better meet them. And that's the kind of external orientation I'm talking about. I think whatever you think about leadership, those three things will take you.